we invite Dr. Jenson George from the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research.
Okay, here in Southern Ocean, we mean the waters around Antarctica, and we will be focusing more on the Prithvi region, and we will talk about exchange of mass across the air-ice-sea interface. So, if you can consider sea ice as an insulator, but if you go into details, you can see there are a lot of exchanges happening across the sea ice. There is energy exchange, mainly heat, momentum, and radiation. Light can pass through, light can reflect, and then a lot of biological activities are also happening at the base of sea ice, because the source of nutrient is sea surface, and then light source is from top. So a lot of biological activity happens at the base of the sea ice. So apart from these exchange processes has climate relevance, and apart from that, there are logistical importance to sea ice, mainly because it's the supply vessel of to maintain an Antarctic station or Antarctic operation. Sea ice is a hindrance and a help also, because sea ice can take up to 1000 kgs. 1 meter thick sea ice can take up to 1000 kg load, and people and things can be transported across. For observational oceanographer, it gives an opportunity to drill a hole in the sea ice and deploy your instrumentation in the water column. The trick is that you have to pick it up before it melts, but it will give you a decent set of data sets. So the leftmost side schematics shows our mooring sea ice tethered mooring system, which has an oceanographic mooring system, then thermistors. So we will look further into the data. So this is a sea ice thermistor chain data. It is nothing but temperature sensors in 2 centimeter interval across the sea ice. So you can see the air temperature, and from the temperature you can measure the sea ice thickness. So here we use the temperature to monitor the sea ice thickness. So here I want to highlight is that you can see there is variation in air temperature in response to the blizzard events, and that blizzard events eventually change the temperature of sea ice also. You can see in the middle line plot. And obviously the photos, you can see the mooring, our observatory. It's a winter mooring, so it was there throughout the winter last year. So now this is a data set from the mooring system. So during the sea ice formation, lot of salt also expels from the subsurface, and it is one of the mechanism how deep Antarctic bottom water forms. So you can see the magenta line in the salinity plot. There is an increase in salinity during the sea ice formation peak time. But what worrying is that salinity is not enough to become a dense shelf water, which essentially becomes the Antarctic bottom water. Another thing to notice is the weak currents. You notice in the lower 2 panels, it is only 5 centimeters. So the study region is essentially not very energetic. But even though the background physics is weak, the biology is not. This is in December. You can see at the base of sea ice. This is the sea ice core in the leftmost panels. There are strong algal presence is there. There are thick mats of algae present under the ice. And if you take one strand of those algae, you can see it's basically a chain forming or colony forming diatoms. So these are the basic food chain, basic food web for the krill, whales and fishes and so on. So this is very important. If you go into the water column also is very productive. This is a sampling done near an ice crack. So there's a crack long of like 5 to 6 kilometers, and that's how you look from below to top, the lower rightmost figure. If you look upward, that's how you'll see there are mats of algal bloom, and if you take one drop out of it, you can see that lot of production is there with variety of species. And if you see the data of nutrients, you notice that there is nutrient limitation. That means nutrient is being used up. Now the question is from the microscopic observation, you can see that there is very healthy plankton cells. That means there is usage, consumption, and then supply. So what is the mechanism of supply of nutrients in those ecosystem, coastal water ecosystem? So this is the time series we did near the crack. So what you see is that initially the water is basically unstratified. The temperature is pretty much common all the way from top to 140 meter. 140 meter is the depth of the region. And then during the mid-January, the salinity started losing. That means it is melting. The sea ice started melting. So stratification, it is not a very stratified condition how you see in tropical waters. But another interesting thing what you notice is that upper 10 meter, 20 meter is highly productive. That is okay. But there are times when the chlorophyll high chlorophyll water or high biomass water is penetrating all the way to ocean depths, and that we need to discuss because there is no light and how these are there. So this is how we measure the ocean turbulence. This is the video. So this is the instrument we use to measure the ocean turbulence, and what you see in red color in the beginning is basically a blue. That's what we saw in the upper 10 meter. So we were keeping our camera and then we saw some seal. Now the water column is not stratified and we are seeing seals. That means seal can be a wonderful generator of turbulence. And if you don't believe the seal, look at right panels. That is the data from our microstructure observation. The first profile is original background turbulence. The next profile is basically the instrument is measuring its own turbulence, which is previous cast it did. So this is the proof that, okay, and for comparison I have kept a Bay of Bengal profiler which we did in 2014 MOM cruise. It's 14 consecutive profiles, and you can see the turbulence remains same because the system is highly stratified. So these kind of ecosystems are new, and there are differences which there are things which we don't know. Yeah. Now the concept of blue carbon. The blue carbon is nothing but the carbon sequestrated in the coastal waters or in the ocean. So for the Antarctic coastal water, the scenario is that everybody said that there is sea ice limitation, sea ice is declining. So what happens? Light is penetrating deeper, or sea ice becomes thin. Then also light penetrates deeper. So what happens? The phytoplankton bloom will happen, benthic secondary production will happen, phytoplankton, zooplankton, and then these things all will fall down to the bottom, and benthic habitat will be thriving, and that is a carbon stock. So this is the blue carbon, and let's see how we see it. So this is our Pittsburgh region where our Indian Antarctic station is there, and you see the land fast ice. We are not talking about sea ice. This is the land fast ice which is attached to the land. And you can see throughout the year it is there, and if you see the trend, it is increasing from 2000 to 2000, probably 16. After that there is a downward trend, but still it is increasing. So land fast ice is there. Now we deployed a sediment trap in last July. This is how we recovered the sediment trap. This is something called, this is just a vessel which has mechanism to whatever falls into the sediment trap, it will be there because there is hypersaline water, high density water. So whatever falls, it will not escape. And that is that 100 meter what you saw, it's a decayed material mostly, but there are green algae also. So our observation in the chlorophyll data also showed that sometimes the phytoplankton goes all the way to bottom, and we presume it is because the seal moved, so it pushes all the water down. But in our sediment trap also we are seeing greens, and in the surface 20 meter obviously we see a lot of greens, and whatever falls down from the ice, sea ice, from the sea ice water it falls. So if you see the blue carbon hypothesis, we say our observation says that yes, there is a lot of supply of food to the benthic organism, and I would say even there is supply of green fresh phytoplankton cells or algae to the bottom. So now the progression of sedimentation, how it progresses. So the video shows the benthic activity, how the benthos is working, and you see it is thriving. Lot of activity is happening at the bottom. And if you see the echo intensity, the figure shows the echo intensity from a downward looking ADCP. What we did is we made a hole in the sea ice and we lowered our ADCP, and it is hanging there. And it is measuring the echo intensity and ocean currents. What we see is that in the initial months of January, where the melting has not started, the water is not fully occupied, there is no particle in the water. Basically, there is no sedimentation happening. But in later stage, when the melting happens, there is a lot of sedimentation from the echo intensity data we can see. And you can see from the video that bottom there is a lot of polychaetes, sponges, brittle stars, everything is there. So question is Antarctic blue carbon growing in response to climate change? From one set of data set, it looks yes, but we don't know. And does it seal is really important in a climatic sense? We don't know. The answer to the both question is that, and I agree with Paul Dodd also, that essentially we need a long-term monitoring system, and to understand the climate importance or relevance, we require modeling as well. So thank you very much.